Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction inspired by real emotions and situations. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or real events is purely coincidental. The story explores themes of trust, betrayal, and family dynamics. It is meant for entertainment and reflection, not to cause harm or offense. Reader discretion is advised. I never imagined that a simple conversation with my stepson would unravel everything I believed about my marriage. When I first married my husband, I thought I was stepping into a loving, stable family. My stepson, Alex, was a bright and caring teenager who seemed to like me enough, and my husband, Mark, appeared to be the perfect partner, supportive, attentive, and loving. Life settled into a comfortable routine. Mark worked long hours but always made time for us. Alex was juggling school and his part-time job, and I tried my best to be a good stepmother, even though sometimes it was hard to know where I fit in. Our weekends were usually quiet, spent watching movies or going out for dinner. I thought we were a happy family, the kind people envied. But beneath that calm surface, I was unaware of the storm gathering. Mark and I had our usual conversations over coffee in the mornings or while cooking dinner. There were no signs of conflict or distance, at least not to me. He told me about his work, and I shared my day's events. Alex was sometimes shy around me, but he warmed up as time passed. I remember thinking how lucky I was. Blending a family wasn't easy, but we seemed to be doing it right. The nights were peaceful, and when Alex stayed late at a friend's house or had school projects, I trusted everything was fine. Mark's phone always stayed face down on the table, and I never felt the need to pry. There was trust between us, or so I believed. Then, one afternoon, Alex said something that made me freeze. It was an innocent comment at first, but it stuck with me, gnawing at my mind like a tiny spark that threatened to ignite a fire. As I sat on the living room couch, Alex walked in after school, looking distracted. I asked him about his day, and he replied casually. But then he muttered something under his breath about seeing Dad with someone else. I blinked, thinking I had misheard. "Alex, what did you say?" I asked quietly. He looked up, eyes wide, then quickly averted his gaze. "Nothing, just, forget it," he said. That moment shifted something inside me. The trust I'd taken for granted suddenly felt fragile, like a glass ready to shatter. Why would my stepson say something like that? Was it a misunderstanding? A joke? Or something more serious? I couldn't stop thinking about his words. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was probably nothing. But deep down, I knew I had to pay attention. Little did I know, that small, almost throwaway comment would be the beginning of a journey that would change everything I thought I knew about my family, my husband, and myself. After Alex's cryptic remark, my mind was racing. I kept replaying the words over and over, Dad with someone else. What could he possibly mean? At first, I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding or maybe something Alex overheard incorrectly. But his tone, quiet, hesitant, almost scared, made me uneasy. That evening, I found myself watching Mark closely. I looked for any signs, any clues that might confirm or dismiss what Alex had said. Mark acted normally. He smiled, joked with Alex, and chatted with me about his day. Nothing seemed out of place. But something inside me had shifted. I was no longer able to accept things at face value. I wanted to talk to Alex more about it but wasn't sure how to approach the topic without making him feel uncomfortable or pressured. A few days later, when we were alone in the kitchen, I gently asked, "Alex, can we talk about what you said the other day? About Dad?" He hesitated, fiddling with his phone, then finally looked up. "I don't want to cause trouble," he said quietly. "It's just, I saw him. I mean, I'm not sure if it was something serious, but I saw Dad with a woman." "It wasn't you." My heart sank. I forced myself to stay calm. "When did you see this?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Last week, when you were at work. I was walking home from school, and I saw Dad outside that cafe downtown. He was with a woman I didn't recognize. They were close, you know. Like more than friends." I nodded slowly, feeling a pit growing in my stomach. Alex continued, I didn't want to say anything because I wasn't sure if I saw right. And I didn't want to hurt anyone. But I thought maybe you should know. His honesty surprised me. Alex was usually guarded, and this was a big step for him. I felt a mix of gratitude and sadness. Gratitude that he trusted me enough to share this, and sadness because it confirmed my worst fears. That night, I lay awake, thoughts spinning. Was Mark having an affair? How long had this been going on? Why would he risk our family like that? The next few days were tense. I found myself watching Mark's phone when he wasn't around, noticing how often he disappeared for work meetings or catching up with old friends. Every message beep made my heart race. Alex's comment had cracked the door to a truth I wasn't ready to face, but I couldn't ignore it. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing fast. Yet, I also worried about Alex. Was he okay? Was he struggling with what he saw? He was acting quieter than usual, sometimes avoiding eye contact with Mark. I knew this wasn't just about me, it was affecting him too. I decided I needed to know more before confronting Mark. I wanted facts, not suspicions. But where would I find the truth without breaking the fragile peace of our home? The moment my stepson spoke up was a turning point. His words were a jolt that shattered my sense of security and forced me to see my family in a new light, a light that revealed hidden secrets and possible betrayal. What I didn't know then was how much more Alex's comment would change everything, unraveling the trust we had built, and forcing me to face a reality I never wanted to accept. After Alex's revelation, I found myself trapped in a whirlwind of doubt and unease. Every little thing about Mark began to feel different. Before, I had taken his words and actions at face value, trusting him completely. Now, I scrutinized every text notification, every whispered phone call, every sudden excuse to leave the house. At first, I tried to brush off the feeling. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe Alex had misunderstood what he saw. But the more I tried to push the suspicion away, the louder it grew in my mind. The small inconsistencies started to pile up. Mark's once relaxed demeanor became tense whenever his phone buzzed. He grew more secretive about his schedule, often working late or meeting clients without much detail. One evening, I noticed Mark's phone light up with a message. He quickly locked the screen before I could see. My heart pounded as a mix of fear and anger bubbled inside me. I wanted to confront him right then, but the thought of tearing apart the family scared me. What if I was wrong? What if I was ruining everything based on a misunderstanding? Alex seemed to sense the tension too. He became quieter, often retreating to his room after school and avoiding meals with us. Once, I overheard him muttering, I didn't want this to happen. I knew the burden he carried was heavy for a teenager. Despite my worries, I kept trying to believe in Mark. I reminded myself of the good moments we shared, the laughter, the support, the plans for our future. But those memories clashed harshly with the growing suspicion gnawing at my heart. One weekend, Mark went out with some friends, leaving me alone with Alex. Hesitant but desperate for answers, I gently asked Alex if he knew more about what he had seen. He looked at me with wide, uncertain eyes and said, I'm not sure, but it didn't look like just a friendly meeting. His honesty was heartbreaking. I realized Alex had been carrying this weight silently, unsure if he should speak up or stay quiet to protect us all. That night, I lay awake, torn between confronting Mark and protecting our family's fragile peace. The more I tried to ignore my doubts, the more they consumed me. It was like living in a house of glass, any moment, everything could shatter. I started paying more attention to Mark's behavior. He became distant, distracted, sometimes snapping at me over small things. It was a stark contrast to the man I married. Was guilt eating at him? Or was he hiding something deeper? Every day felt like walking on a tightrope. I wanted to believe in our marriage, but the seed of doubt planted by Alex's words was growing into a towering wall of suspicion. I was caught between hope and fear, love and betrayal, struggling to find the truth buried beneath the lies. The weight of suspicion became unbearable, and I knew I couldn't live in this fog of uncertainty any longer. I had to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. But the question was, how? How could I uncover what Mark was hiding without shattering everything we had built? I started with small steps. I tried to casually ask Mark about his days, hoping to catch any inconsistencies. At first, he seemed unaware of my growing doubts, but soon his answers became curt and defensive. The warmth that once filled our conversations was replaced by cold silences and evasive replies. One evening, I noticed Mark's phone left unattended on the kitchen counter while he stepped outside for a moment. My heart raced as I debated whether to look. Finally, I picked up the phone and hesitated, knowing this would cross a line, but desperation pushed me forward. I scrolled through messages, carefully scanning for anything suspicious. And there it was, a string of texts from a woman whose name I didn't recognize. The messages were flirty, sometimes intimate, clearly more than just friendship. My chest tightened with every word I read. The evidence was right there, undeniable. But I needed more than texts. I began observing Mark's behavior closely, tracking his movements and trying to connect the dots. The work meetings suddenly became weekend trips to places he hadn't told me about. The late nights weren't at the office, they were nights out with this other woman. During this time, Alex remained a silent but painful reminder of the truth. I watched how his demeanor changed, his hesitation around Mark, and the way he avoided discussing what he had witnessed. I realized that, in some way, he was protecting me, holding back until I was ready to face reality. Despite the mounting evidence, confronting Mark felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, terrifying and uncertain. I wondered how he would react. Would he deny everything? Would he try to make excuses? Or would he admit the betrayal and shatter our family completely? One afternoon, I found the courage to ask Alex directly if he had seen more than just that one encounter. He looked at me with a mixture of guilt and fear and quietly said, "There were other times. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt you." His words hit me like a blow. My stepson had been carrying this burden alone, and now it was mine too. With the truth slowly unraveling, the tension at home was palpable. Mark was more distant, often avoiding eye contact and growing defensive when questioned. I felt the walls closing in, the silence between us growing louder. But the hardest part was preparing myself for the inevitable confrontation. I knew that once I asked the right questions, nothing would be the same again. And so, I waited for the moment when I could no longer avoid the truth, the moment when everything would come crashing down. The moment of truth arrived on a quiet evening, one I will never forget. I could no longer hold back the questions swirling inside me. Mark had been distant for weeks, and my heart ached with a mixture of fear and hope, that he might deny everything and reassure me, or that the truth would finally be laid bare. I sat him down in our living room, trying to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Mark, we need to talk. Alex told me about seeing you with another woman. I found messages on your phone. Please, be honest with me." Mark's face changed instantly, his eyes flickered with guilt, then something like regret. For a moment, he was silent. I could feel the tension crushing the air around us. Then, quietly, he confessed. "Yes, it's true," he said, voice low. "I made a terrible mistake. It didn't mean anything, but I know that doesn't excuse what I did." The words hit me harder than I imagined. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and lost all at once. How could the man I loved, the father of my stepson, risk everything for a moment of weakness? I wanted to scream, cry, and run away, all at the same time. Alex was watching from the doorway, his face pale and uncertain. I could see the pain in his eyes, too. He had carried the secret for so long and now faced the fallout just like me. Mark explained that the affair started a few months ago, during a difficult time when he felt disconnected from the family. He said it wasn't about love but an escape, a way to feel alive again. His apologies felt hollow, but beneath them, I sensed real remorse. The hardest part was realizing how deeply this betrayal would affect our family. The trust we built, the life we planned, it all seemed shattered. I asked Mark about the other woman, about how long it had been going on, and what he intended to do. He promised it was over, that he wanted to fix our marriage. But I wasn't sure if I could believe him, not yet. That night, I lay awake, tears streaming down my face. The house felt cold and empty, even though we were all under the same roof. Alex came to my room later, sitting beside me silently. We didn't say much, but the bond between us grew stronger in that painful silence. The confirmation of infidelity changed everything. It wasn't just a secret anymore, it was a wound we all had to face. The question now was whether that wound could heal, or if it would leave a scar too deep to mend. The days following the confession were some of the most difficult I've ever faced. The atmosphere in our home was thick with tension, sadness, and anger. Mark's admission had opened a wound that refused to heal quickly, and it seemed like every conversation was a battle or a silent war. I wanted answers: why, how, and if there was any chance of forgiveness. But Mark's guilt weighed heavily on him, and sometimes his silence spoke louder than words. There were moments when he broke down, begging for a second chance, promising to make things right. Other times, he shut down completely, overwhelmed by shame and regret. Alex, caught in the middle of this emotional storm, became quieter and more withdrawn. I could see the pain in his eyes every time he looked at his father. It was clear the betrayal had deeply affected him, too. He was no longer just my stepson, he was someone who had been hurt by the man he called Dad. One afternoon, the confrontation escalated. Mark and I argued, angry words exchanged, tears flowing, and old frustrations surfacing. I demanded to know why he risked everything for an affair, why he didn't come to me first when he felt disconnected. He confessed he was scared, lost, and didn't know how to ask for help. The argument left us both exhausted, but it also brought a raw honesty we hadn't had before. For the first time, Mark admitted he wanted to rebuild, to fix what he'd broken. But he also knew it would take time, patience, and a lot of work. Alex overheard parts of the fight and later confronted his father privately. Their conversation was painful but necessary. Alex expressed his hurt and disappointment, asking how Mark could betray not just me, but him too. Mark promised to do better, to be the father Alex deserved. The fallout affected every part of our lives. Friends and family noticed the strain, asking if we were okay. We pretended to be fine, but inside, everything felt fractured. At times, I wondered if we could survive this. Was love enough to overcome betrayal? Could trust be rebuilt after such a deep wound? Despite the pain, a small part of me wanted to believe in forgiveness, in healing. But I also knew that some scars might never fully fade. Our family was no longer the same, and the path forward was uncertain. But whatever happened next, we had to face it together, or not at all. After weeks of emotional turmoil and countless sleepless nights, the moment came when I had to decide: could I forgive Mark and try to rebuild our marriage, or was it time to let go and move on? I spent many hours reflecting on everything: the love we once shared, the trust that was broken, and the impact on our family, especially Alex. I thought about my own feelings: hurt, anger, sadness, but also hope and the possibility of healing. It wasn't an easy choice. Mark was sincere in his apologies. He was attending therapy, making efforts to be more present and transparent. But the betrayal had left a deep scar. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight, and every step forward felt fragile. Alex's perspective mattered the most. Despite the pain, he still wanted our family to stay together. He needed his father, and I knew the value of giving him that stability. At the same time, I also had to protect myself and set boundaries. We agreed to take things slowly. Mark committed to being honest, attending counseling sessions, and proving that he could change. I also sought support from friends and a therapist to help me process my emotions. It wasn't just about whether we could salvage the marriage, it was about creating a safe space where everyone felt respected and valued again. Some days were better than others. Moments of laughter mixed with tears. Conversations that once felt impossible became part of our healing process. I realized that forgiveness was as much for me as it was for Mark. Holding on to bitterness only deepened the wounds. At the same time, I knew the road ahead would be long and challenging. Trust needed to be earned back, piece by piece. Through it all, Alex remained a constant reminder of why I wanted to try. His resilience and honesty gave me strength. Whether our family would fully heal or remain scarred, I chose to believe in the possibility of a new beginning. Months passed since that painful revelation, and slowly, the fractures in our family began to mend, though not without effort, tears, and honest conversations. Mark kept his promises, attending counseling and being more open with both Alex and me. It wasn't perfect, and there were setbacks, but the willingness to rebuild gave us hope. I realized that healing wasn't about forgetting the past but learning to live with it while choosing to move forward. Mark's infidelity left scars, but it also revealed the importance of communication, trust, and forgiveness in a marriage. Alex and I grew closer through the experience. His bravery in speaking up and his honesty helped us face the truth together. We both knew the road wasn't easy, but we were committed to protecting the family bond. For me, it was a journey of rediscovering my own strength and self-worth. I learned to set boundaries, demand respect, and hold space for my feelings without guilt. Mark and I worked on rebuilding not just our relationship but our friendship, the foundation of any strong marriage. We learned to be vulnerable, to admit mistakes, and to support each other honestly. The experience changed us all, teaching painful but valuable lessons about love and betrayal. Today, while the memory of that dark time remains, it no longer controls us. We chose to face the pain head-on, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to heal as a family. The stepson's words that once shattered everything became a catalyst for change, a reminder that sometimes, facing the worst can lead to the strongest growth. Though our story is far from perfect, it is ours, a story of pain, forgiveness, and the courage to move forward together.